So, why am I not concerned about YouTube copyright? This is me. I recorded this song last year for an album called 2020. That's something I do every year. I'll record a little music here. So this is a tube preamp. We're listening to this original petey two-finger music played out of this iPod killer. This has 10,000 more colors on the screen, higher resolution. This is just a superior product made by Creative Labs. But the reason this music sounds so good is because I recorded it. Now, we got to thank Heavy Metal ATC. I sent this guy, he's a YouTuber friend of mine, and I sent him a eBay link, a picture of this circuit here, this tube preamp, with the singular sentence saying, this is the one I want. And it showed up here a month later. He purchased one for me. I hope he got one for himself too. And it'll be interesting to see what Clementine, also known as Heavy Metal ATC, his link is in the description. I believe he's going to be building his tube preamp as a more traditional guitar apparatus, something that would have maybe a tone control, maybe a gain. I'm not exactly sure what his plans for the unit are. I do know from reading the comments section that you very easily can insert a tone stack and a gain control and you're off to the races with this. So I chose to just add an input and an output jack, and I'm going to be putting this in between anywhere where I feel I want to warm up a digital signal. I have a pair of tube preamps that I run for recording. Now this will be my kind of knock-around tube preamp. So I'm going to talk more in detail about the procedure of putting it in the box, because that was all I had to do. This thing came loaded, what do you call it, populated. It came with all of the resistors and capacitors and the tube sockets installed. And it's very clearly marked 12 volt, 12 volt, out ground out, in ground in, and that's it. So we have our input here, we have our power coming in here, and our output there. And I cloned the input so I could run this modern 1/8 inch or individual 1/4 inch. And I could, you know, if I want, I can add RCA inputs and outputs. I can do whatever I want in the future. The main thing is that it's mounted. You can see here I used standoff, so I laid the circuit board in here and used a pencil to mark the holes, center punched it, drilled those out, added the screws with the standoffs to elevate it, and then drilled these 3 holes here, installed these inputs and outputs. These needed to be expanded a little bit. This chassis, it's a switch box. You can see these ports here are LPB1 printer port. So this was originally a switch box. You'd have a singular big, what do you call it, toggle switch, click, click, 1 or 2. And you would have your 2 computers hooked up to printer port, these 2 printer ports, and then 1 printer, and you'd select which computer you wanted to slave to your printer with this. Now I buy these boxes, I like to pay $1.99 for them. They'll come with that toggle switch. It's a real big switch with just tons of post connectors on it. And I will use my soldering iron and unsolder all of the leads that run back to these printer ports. And what you end up with is pieces of wire that are perfect for building pedals. They're about that long, just about perfect length for what you need. And then so I have a baggie, I have a stash, because I bought probably around 15 of these and gutted them. I only used the rotary switch in one project, but I always use I've got a ton of amplifiers, Class D amplifiers, test oscillator, equalizers, you name it. If it's a cheap eBay kit, I've rehoused it or housed it in one of these type of chassis, and that's going to be the next step, is put a roof on this and move on. But listen to this tube preamp. It's silent. There's no noise. There's no hum. And this is Emerson Research Radio. Emerson is kind of an off-brand of electronics, and this is kind of a clone of a wave radio that I picked up because it had an input and it had a headphone jack and then a line in, and it was $2.99 at the Goodwill. So I picked that up, maybe use it as a headphone amp in a pinch, and it came in handy tonight for this test of this tube preamp. I couldn't be happier with this project. I don't think I will be modifying this. I think I will be boxing it up as is. And in the future, if I'm looking to build a amp with a tube front end, I could just build that amp. The only thing with this is I would get a different circuit, a different preamp, because there's one that runs off 6 volts DC. And that way I could use lithium-ion rechargeable batteries, because that's how I build all of my amplifiers, because I play in a duo outdoors. So that's just my thing, my way of doing things. I want a super special thanks to Heavy Metal ATC, Clementine, links in the description. Make sure you go to his channel and subscribe. He's building a guitar out of an old farm table. He's playing around, building his own pickups and doing all these interesting experiments, rule breaking and myth busting over on his wonderful guitar-centric channel. Clementine is my buddy, and I wanted to really thank him for this. Right now, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to look at some pictures, some photographs that I took during the build process, and I'm going to try to describe what's going on in these pictures to give you a better idea how I put it together. But really, I got to tell you, it was as simple as taking the thing, drilling the holes, screwing it in there, drilling more holes, and then, you know, soldering it all up. We started on this about 6 p.m. and what time is it now?
Like 10:20.
Yeah, so it's about 3 hours. All right, you guys, I'll see you in the other room.